Greetings, Imagination Connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, the sanctimoniously notorious RMB, here for Robservations, the show about something. Robservations number 205. I got Gilbert and Tallulah hanging out with me. It's a hot day. We were all already watering the vegetable garden, so now they're here with me again. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, gentle beings, people from all over the cosmos, whoever you are. Whatever you identify with, however you feel, whatever you believe in, you're welcome here because you are an imagination connoisseur, and this is the Post-Geek Singularity community. And as you know, these chats are brought to you by Lucky Tiger Men's Grooming Products for those men who want to look good and feel great. Very happy to be sponsored by them. And if you go to getluckytiger.com and you punch in PGS after you've ordered any of their great men's skincare products or beard care products or mustache care products, as it were, you get 20% off your order. And as you know, they are running a sweepstakes right now. That is correct. Lucky Tiger is running a sweepstakes, and they're not, you know what? I'm just off today. They're not stakes. They're doing a giveaway. As you know, they're doing a giveaway. They're doing a tailgater giveaway to turn you into the greatest tailgater in the world. Oh, I guess, by the way, I'm going on here now at the same time as John Campea, but I didn't know that. I mean, I staked out 1 o'clock for my show, so I guess, he's actually at D23. He's been reporting on D23, and if you want to check out what he's going to tell you about everything that happened at D23 today, I wasn't going to talk much about all the news that dropped. I was only going to talk about specific news that dropped and how I feel about it and how, well, you guys feel about it anyway. So we are here. And by the way, let me finish what I was saying about, if you go to getluckytiger.com or clubluckytiger.com, you can enter their Tailgaters giveaway. They're giving away $500 worth of stuff to tailgate with. So for the upcoming football season, how cool is that? Anyway, I've got a lot of letters from people, a lot of commentary, a lot of interesting stuff has dropped. Everyone knows D23 since yesterday has been going on. D23 is the yearly, it's billed as the ultimate event for Disney fans, where Disney covers everything they have coming out in the next year and what they have planned. And obviously this year, the big announcement, all the big information was really about not just their upcoming slate, but about Disney Plus, their streaming service, how it's going to work, how it's priced out. When can we start seeing things? I guess it's November 12th is the day. That's also the day the first episode of The Mandalorian drops, of which they showed a trailer for it. It's pretty amazing. Now, I'll tell you, and right now, of course, they had J.J. Abrams. They did a big presentation this morning on the Rise of Skywalker. They dropped the new poster. They did show footage. So far, there hasn't been a trailer. I was thinking there wasn't going to be a trailer. They only showed footage to people that were at D23 from the Rise of Skywalker. I think the reason for that is they didn't want to take away the impact, and I think this was very smart, of the Mandalorian trailer that, of course, dropped yesterday. And the Mandalorian is their first Star Wars streaming series. There's going to be 3. They announced, obviously, Cassian Andor, the Cassian Andor series with K2SO. And they also announced Ewan McGregor is coming back to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in another streaming series. And apparently all the scripts are written. These shows are going into production quite quickly. And that is, I think, amazing. I think it's the best news for Star Wars fans, getting a Rogue One series, a prequel series, and getting a Kenobi series. I've been an advocate of a Kenobi series for a long time. I really thought they should have started out their Star Wars story. Rogue One was probably, I mean, that was the best I think they could have gone out on the gate with, come out of the gate with. But I do think it was very important to see Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's, obviously Ewan McGregor played Obi-Wan in the prequel trilogy. And I think it would have been really nice to see him come back and play Obi-Wan Kenobi after Order 66 and after he would have been called away. I mean, the galaxy is in turmoil. He could have had an amazing adventure, and I guess he did have an amazing adventure before we meet him at the beginning of A New Hope. And I think it's a great move. I think Ewan McGregor coming back is great. I think he knows that this is a way that I'm sure a lot of people don't love the prequel trilogy, but I'm sure that at least I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the streaming series, because Disney Plus is extremely important to Disney. It is going to be literally, we are looking with Disney Plus at the future. I know we've had streaming. Amazon has been streaming, obviously. Netflix has been streaming, Hulu. We have a lot of other streaming services happening. But Disney, the behemoth that is Disney, this is going to be the beginning of a sea change. And I honestly think, as far as Disney is concerned, this is going to be, they're killing physical media. I would expect that Disney will not have physical media in 5 or 10 years, probably even sooner. That's what Disney Plus is really going to do, is no longer will Disney be selling. They've never really, I feel as a company, Disney, while they did embrace home video because they made so much money, they didn't like that they had to. When I was working in home video, starting when I was 13 years old, before there was a Blockbuster and video stores there were some chains, but for the most part, it started out as mom and pop stores. And I worked for a store called Video Space for 4 years. That was one of the very first video stores in the United States. And it was founded by Weston Nishimura, who later went on to found the VSDA, the Video Software Dealers Association of America. And even back then, when Disney started releasing films on pre-recorded cassette on VHS and beta, and then mostly VHS, they never liked doing it. There was a lot of people that never liked. I've said before on the show that Steven Spielberg once said that to see all the blood, sweat, and tears that he put in to making Close Encounters reduced to a cassette that would fit in the palm of your hand was something that never sat well with him. Well, Disney, they made their money. A lot of people forget this because times have changed, but all of the classic Disney animated films up really through the 1980s, even Song of the South, was re-released in theaters. Disney would periodically re-release their classics in theaters in the pre-video era, and they would make a lot of money because new generations would turn out to see their animated classics, whether it was Pinocchio, whether it was Snow White, whether it was Cinderella. All of the Disney classics were re-released in theaters every half decade or so, and sometimes maybe a little longer, and they made a lot of money that way. So the idea that Disney would then put out these famous and their bread and butter films, their classic animation on video cassettes so people could buy them, they really had to figure out, how is that all going to work? How's that all going to work with them as a company? And they never really liked the idea. I never got that they liked the idea of people being able to buy their animated classics. I felt that they never felt good about it. Even in the 90s Laserdisc era, where my friend Michael Pellerin was producing these incredible Disney box sets, these beautiful Laserdisc box sets. They came in incredible packaging. They had all these amazing special features. I even felt even then Disney was okay with these Laserdiscs because it was such a niche market anyway. They didn't have the kind of mass sales that they were getting with, say, VHS. So what is Disney Plus? Disney Plus is going to end up becoming the only place where you're going to be able to buy or see Disney movies for, I guess it's $12 a month to launch, or it's going to be $7 a month. I don't know how they're going to, I haven't looked into all of the pricing yet. I have to look into that, but it's very cheap. I think monthly it starts out at $6.99 or $7 a month. And everyone's going to buy it. You're not going to be able to get a bundle with Hulu and ESPN. The pricing is right, but I think this is the beginning, the real beginning of the end of physical media. I think that Disney, they're releasing a lot of the Marvel films. They're going to put them all out by October on 4K disc. But after that, I really see the physical media. Disney barely threw out Lion King on 4K before the new version came out this summer. And they're done. Disney is done with physical media. Now, I haven't heard anyone say this, but this is the message that I think I'm getting. Why does anyone need physical media when you are beaming all Disney shows into your home through their app? Now, unfortunately, I've been somebody, well, not fortunately, or unfortunately, I've been buying physical media now. This is my 39th year buying physical media. As many people know, the very first piece of physical media I ever bought was Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween on Meta before it had become Media, on Meta Home Entertainment. And then the next movies I owned were like John Carpenter's Dark Star, VCI Home Entertainment put it out. And physical media is coming to an end. It's coming to an end because, well, for a number of reasons, it just won't be profitable anymore. It was hugely profitable. The DVD era was the most profitable era of home entertainment for the studios. They made money hand over fist. But physical media sales have been plummeting. Between 2014 and 2018, I famously cited the statistic that physical media sales dropped 50%. And every year it drops another 15%. We're still at about $4.5 billion a year of physical media sales, but that is way, 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 way down. And one of the things that always drove physical media sales was parents and kids. They would buy their kids their favorite movies on physical media so they could play them over and over and over again whenever they wanted. And a lot of those movies were, in fact, Disney films. But when you have Disney Plus, you'll be able to just, for $7 a month, at least to start, if that's all you want, because it's Disney Plus, you can have all of those movies right there at your fingertips. They showed at D23 their Star Wars page. They're going to have a page. You click on Star Wars. There's all of the Star Wars movies. And I would assume The Mandalorian on launch on November 12th. And not even any other streaming service. I mean, to have all of those, if I had a Star Wars page that I could just click and instantaneously access Star Wars movies, heck, I would just, a lazy Sunday afternoon, click through my favorite scenes of all the films. You know, I mean, that's what they're giving you. It's I won't ever have to get up and play my discs. The only reason why physical media currently is more desirable than streaming, at least as far as I'm concerned, is because if you have a great home theater system, if you have an incredible surround sound system with Dolby Atmos and you have a 4K TV and you have Dolby Vision or HDR10 plus, whatever you've got, physical media still provides a better picture and better sound than streaming does because it's compressed for no other reason. I mean, everything is compressed to a certain degree, but that's why physical media is so great. And even the special features on physical media have been going the way of the dodo, unfortunately. So physical media is going out the door, and Disney is going to be the first. They're embracing their streaming service. It's the future of their company. It's the way most people are going to see their movies. They announced a number of at launch. They're putting out an Anna Kendrick movie called, I hate to say it, Noelle, but I hate to say it looked kind of funny. It's about Santa's kids inheriting the family business. And one of his sons is supposed to take over, doesn't, and takes off. So it's got an element of The Year Without a Santa Claus in it. Anna Kendrick plays Santa's daughter who has to go find her brother to save Christmas. They're The Lady and the Tramp. They've done a live action remake of Lady and the Tramp, which Lady and the Tramp is one of my favorite Disney animated features. It's a widescreen. It's funny. Lady and the Tramp is a widescreen movie, but I don't think the film, well, maybe it is, come to think of it, but I thought the trailer looked charming. Against my better judgment, I'm like, oh my God, Disney owns my soul. And I think that's great. If they're providing all of this great entertainment, I have to say, I mean, once I see what their platform is, and if they are streaming full Atmos, uncompressed sound, whatever they're doing, if I can get access to that kind of thing, it's going to be really hard to justify. Like, look, I'm always going to love having all 4K versions of the Marvel Cinematic Universe on my shelf. I will admit to that, and I hope they put out Last Jedi in 3D. I'd like to get that, but we shall see. But that's what I got from this whole D23 thing and the announcement. Of course, many people know I love the character of Moonknight. And they announced yesterday, a Miss Marvel, about Miss Khan, the first Miss Marvel, the modern Miss Marvel, who's the first Muslim teenage superhero. They're doing a series about her. They're doing a She-Hulk series as well, which no-brainer. Can't wait to see that. They should get like David Kelly to produce that show. And they are, of course, doing a Moon Knight series. Now, a lot of people, they know. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everybody for tweeting to me about the Moon Knight show, because I felt the love, man. And everyone knows, if you've been watching me for any length of time on Heroes, you know that Moonknight is one of my favorite Marvel characters. Moonknight is the reason I started reading comic books again back in the early 80s. Camelot 3000 and Moonknight, when I started seeing the direct sale books, and I saw Moonknight and Sienkiewicz's art. And the Moonknight character to me was at its best in the original Doug Mensch, Bill Sienkiewicz run. Later, Kevin Nolan was drawing the comic, but it ran 38 issues, and that was the first iteration of that character in his own book. And the character has been sort of really scattershot since then. There's been all different kinds of incarnations of Moon Knight, and lately they've really played up the fact that Moon Knight had multiple identities, secret identities, and then they turned that into split personalities, which I thought was a good idea. It's just taken Moon Knight kind of away from the Moon Knight I fell in love with. But I don't know which iteration of Moon Knight they're going for. If they started out and kept him grounded and he slowly went mad, that could be kind of cool. But I'm deliriously excited for a Moon Knight series. They didn't announce who's in it or anything about it. As far as movies, they did show footage from Black Widow, and John Campea tweeted that it looked like more of a spy movie. I'm like, great, bring it on. That's, of course, what it's supposed to be. Marvel is doing, they've never made a straight up spy film before, and they've worked in other different genres. So I'm glad that's exactly what Black Widow should be. Black Panther 2 has been dated. I think it's May 2022, something like that. John will tell you more about that. And I think that it's very exciting. I mean, what Marvel's doing is very exciting. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening, but Moon Knight, it's amazing we're getting all of these shows. There's 7 or 8 streaming shows now total. And then the movies, incredible. So they announced Kit Harington is playing Black Knight in the Eternals movie, and they showed the whole cast on stage. I'm really excited to see what they do with Eternals. Very interesting. Their ties to the cosmic realm, the Marvel cosmic realm, but also they're bringing it down to earth. The whole history of the Marvel universe is tied in with the Eternals, and the Eternals are also tied in with the larger cosmic forces such as the Celestials, the Eternals, and the Deviants. So it's going to be cool to see what they do with that. But really what I found most interesting, of course, is The Mandalorian. Now, here's why I think The Mandalorian could be the reason, the savior of Star Wars. I think everything they're doing on Disney Plus is going to be, it's going to give us the Star Wars that we've wanted. And what I mean by that is it's going to give us live action Star Wars that has a very distinct creative direction behind it. It was conceived and executed with a specific, very strong creative vision. And I think already the trailer for The Mandalorian intrigued me. I never thought a still frame, well, not a still frame, but a close-up pushing in on Carl Weathers' face. He doesn't even say anything. He's just sitting in the frame. We know nothing really about his character. We just know he's in it. And the look on his face, he doesn't even smile or anything. The camera just pushes in the Mandalorian trailer on Carl Weathers. And I'm like, this show already looks great. Giancarlo Esposito is in there. Gus Fring, he's in there looking like he's, whether he's First Order or Imperial Remnant, we don't know. Werner Herzog, my God, is a crime boss of some kind. It looks great. But what's really interesting to me, mostly about The Mandalorian, is the fact that Jon Favreau is heading this up. He, over the course of Jungle Book and now Lion King, he has learned to use the kind of real-time technology where they can be shooting digitally on a lot of green screen sets. They can literally do an entire Star Wars show. They don't have to go to Pinewood anymore. But with the kind of technology that Jon Favreau has been developing over the last 5 years, he can now create an incredibly lushly produced Star Wars show, basically in a warehouse or a soundstage in Manhattan Beach, California. And it's stunning. He's learned exactly how to wield this technology. And I think, we're going to be getting something that's truly amazing. The same way that James Cameron is pioneering technology, how he pioneered 3D technology for Avatar, Favreau's technology, shooting things in real time where you can see what the backgrounds look like comped in while you're shooting, is going to allow us to get a very cinematic series. Obviously, the trailer that we saw was incredibly cinematic. It looks gritty, it looks hardcore, but most of all, with the involvement, I mean, they brought out Favreau and Dave Filoni together, and I think what we're getting is we're getting something that has a vision behind it, that's planned out. They know where they're going. Whereas just this morning, they had the Rise of Skywalker presentation. JJ was out there. He brought out the cast. They did a lot of things to excite people. They did show footage. Rey was wielding apparently a red lightsaber. But the problem that I think, whatever you think of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and the entire Disney era of Star Wars, what the films have been missing, in my estimation, is, and I like Last Jedi, there's no story. There's no overarching story. The story that we're following is the story of, it is the Skywalker saga. But if you like Rey and Ben, that's nothing. I don't want to take anything away from you, but where we have no idea where it's going. You're not anticipating anything. You know, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Vader revealed that he was Luke's father. Han Solo was in Carbonite, and Boba Fett had taken him away to Jabba the Hutt. The anticipation for Return of the Jedi was enormous back in the day. And I know I was completely caught up in it, and I couldn't wait for 3 years. But I feel that with Last Jedi, the stuff that people are really excited about, the eventual return of Luke, and of course the Emperor showing up, Lando showing up. But the story, there's no real, we don't know where the story's going. And I don't know if I don't think people are as invested. And I think the excitement has kind of moved over to The Mandalorian because we're getting something else that we don't know. And we don't know where it's all going to go. And does it have an overarching story that leads into the Sith or not? Maybe not. But all I know is that the Mandalorian trailer had me far more intrigued, certainly, than the glimpse we saw in the Rise of Skywalker teaser. And the things that did have everybody intrigued in Rise of Skywalker, the Return of the Emperor, of course, seeing chunks of the Death Star, all of these things that hark back to the original trilogy with Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, R2, 3PO, Lando, and you're never going to be able to see those characters together. And that was always what I've maintained was the big mistake of this new trilogy, is you didn't make a movie that sort of gave us a nice bow on Luke, Han, Leia, and R2 and 3PO, and seeing our characters, Chewie, seeing them all together. We never got that. Instead, we got this film that started with Force Awakens with all of these new characters that are basically Star Wars tropes, and they haven't been developed. They haven't been totally earned yet. And that's not to take away from the people that love those characters. But I think overall, there isn't the kind of the desire to see Endgame. There was a fever pitch to seeing Endgame. And we've seen one teaser. December 20th is when Rise of Skywalker opens. And look, I want it to be great. But even the poster they released, it has the Emperor overseeing Rey and Kylo Ren fighting, but the Emperor hasn't been a part of this story. So, okay, that's cool that he's in it, but I don't even know how to anticipate him being there. So as a tease, and I think most Star Wars fans, and I've been one since Star Wars first came out, it's kind of more perplexing than anything else. Whereas The Mandalorian, anyone who read EU books or read Marvel comics and then later Dark Horse comics, The Mandalorian seems like the kind of story that I like, the fact that it's a story set in the rich Star Wars universe that has familiar looking aliens. I mean, heck, it even looks like there's throwbacks to the Ewok adventure films, the 2 Ewok movies with some of that one guy who's writing the whatever it is, looked like it was from the Ewok adventures. And I think that we're getting something that, and to be fair, Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, those movies are really the cornerstone of Star Wars business, is the feature films. That's where everything lives and begins and moves forward. And I understand that when they first bought Star Wars, it was a crapshoot. There was a lot of pressure put on the films to perform. But I think now, with The Mandalorian, of course, there's a lot of pressure there, but there's an excitement for Disney Plus. The Mandalorian's being surrounded. They're even doing a Rocketeer, a young girl, a rocket. I love The Rocketeer. I love Dave Stevens' comic, The Rocketeer. 1991's The Rocketeer, directed by Joe Johnston, who later went on to direct Captain America, the First Avenger. I really love The Rocketeer. I think it's aged quite well. When it came out, it didn't do that well. People thought that it wasn't that good. I showed it to Elizabeth last night. I pulled out the old Blu-ray and thoroughly enjoyed The Rocketeer. I did that because, my God, Disney Plus announced a Rocketeer. A young girl is the new Rocketeer. I'm sure people are already bitching somewhere online about that, but we're getting some more Rocketeer back. That's kind of cool. But I really think that what they're doing, what Disney Plus is going to be allowed to do with Star Wars, is some of the most, obviously they're continuing the Clone Wars. They're doing another season, a 7th season of Clone Wars. And I really enjoyed, especially the last couple seasons of Clone Wars, I thought were excellent Star Wars. And as we know, they've now organized the 3 periods of time. The 3 trilogies are now called The Age of Republic, which is what episodes 1, 2, and 3 are called. 1, 2, and 3 are called. The Age of Rebellion are A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and The Age of Resistance. And I understand why they did that, but I think the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, should have been called The Age of Empire. I understand it's cheeky. Republic, Rebellion, Resistance. I get that. But The Age of Empire was really what I think that the original trilogy should be called. But whatever. What can you say? But I think it's very interesting. And I think really what they're doing on Disney Plus is the most exciting Star Wars that we're getting. With the Cassian Andor series, we're going to see more birth of the rebellion, which is going to be very, very cool to see how that all worked out. I'm sure we'll be able to see, like, Jimmy Smits come back, and there'll be a lot of opportunity to visit some of our old favorites. And that'll be really interesting to go back and see a pre-New Hope era Star Wars right before A New Hope, or a couple of years. Or I hope they bring back Krennic. Love to see Ben Mendelsohn come back. I love Krennic. And we're getting an Obi-Wan series. It's just amazing to me that we're getting an Obi-Wan series and the scripts are already written. Cassian Andor series, and with K2SO, and we're getting a Mandalorian show. It's really amazing. But I do think all of this is going to lead up to the death of physical media, which interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where we are at with all of that. So we'll see. Anyway, I have letters, ladies and gentlemen. I have letters. Now, this first letter comes from longtime Imagination Connoisseur Ian Samuels, who's always writing me letters. This is kind of a fun letter. Rob Meister General, what is going on with lightsabers? It was established at first there were 3 standard lightsaber colors: blue, green, and yellow. Jedi Guardians, Jedi who concentrate mainly on the lightsaber combat and become experts in at least one of the lightsaber forms. Jedi Guardians have blue. Jedi Consular concentrate more on force powers and use green lightsabers. Jedi Sentinels combine force powers and lightsaber combat pretty much halfway between Guardians and Consulars and use yellow lightsabers. There are other lightsaber colors. After Attack of the Clones, the purple lightsaber of Mace Windu was added to canon. It was then decided that the Jedi weapons masters use purple lightsabers. Most other colors, including Viridian, are rare or even unique ones. The Sith use synthetic, which are why they are red. But now, as usual with George Lucas, all of this has changed. Apparently, the crystal starts clear or white and then changes color to suit the wielder of the lightsaber. The Jedi who leave the Order, the lightsaber crystal returns to white. This is apparently when Ahsoka returns in Star Wars Rebels. She has white lightsabers. But even weirder than that is the new version of Sith characters' red lightsabers. Now a Sith takes a lightsaber from a dead Jedi, then shows the lightsaber such dark, bloody things that the lightsaber crystals bleed, and that is how it becomes red. I didn't know this, to be honest. But it gets even weirder now, according to Lucas's new version of lightsaber crystal lore. Is the reason why Mace Windu's blade is purple is that it was a blue lightsaber, but because he uses a dark side form through his fighting, the blue becomes mixed by a little of the dark side bleeding and becomes purple. Where are you getting all this, Ian? Is this in the books? Is this in the EU, or is this new canon? I can understand that George had a dream and made that dream come true, but he really needs to leave it alone. These changes to the established lightsaber lore were really not needed. Ian. Well, Ian, I got to tell you that you could very well be right about that. It's not really for me to say, but there were no midi-chlorians at one point either. So what can you do? It's, you just never know. You just never know. Jeffrey Mao says, damn it, why are you and Campia on at the same time? Well, he did get to go to D23, and I didn't. I didn't go. Tiberius Monk 84 said, as Yoda once said, begun the streaming wars have. They certainly have, haven't they? Amazing. This next letter comes from Craig Stratton. Greetings, RMB, Gilbert, and Tallulah, and hello out there to the Post-Geek Singularity. Today, I wish to talk about female characters and what happened to them. A sensitive topic, I know, but I want to give my thoughts. The thing is, I love female characters when they are written well and given a story and a great character arc. The same for any male character. I recently just started watching The X-Files on Amazon Prime, and I am loving it. I am loving Dana Scully as played by Gillian Anderson. I relate more to Scully than I do Mulder, and yet I'm a man. And this is where I feel the problem female characters now have. They're not being written so men can relate to them, but neither can women. Take Star Wars. I cannot relate to Rey, and it's not because I have a penis and she has a vagina. It's because she isn't relatable. I just want to say, for the sake of female characters out there, give them better writing. Do that, and I think you will find a lot of this toxic fandom will go away. Well, Craig, thanks for that letter. I don't necessarily disagree with you. As we were talking about yesterday on the show, there's a lot of talk of the quality of writing. And I think, especially in the first 4 seasons of X-Files, Dana Scully was a beautifully written character. She was always written as being feminine, but being tough as nails. A lot of the problems she had, the relationships with her sister and her mother, and the things that happened to her, which are, let's face it, some of them are quite unpleasant, are very much speak to the femininity of her character, and I thought that was always very well handled. And look, I agree. I think that look at how Princess Leia was written. I keep talking about this. I don't know why it's such a revelation to people, but Princess Leia is the first person we really meet after R2 and 3PO in the classic trilogy, and she's a badass. Her ship is being boarded. It's full of Imperial troops and Darth Vader, and she is busy getting the job done, getting the plans to the Death Star into R2, getting them off the ship, and fighting stormtroopers off single-handedly, and then she shows up and gets in Vader's face. She literally gets all up in his grill. I mean, from the very beginning, Star Wars was showing us strong female characters. So, to me, I have no problem with characters like Rey, but like our letter writer said, let's give us a well-written version of Rey. I felt that's not what we got. And it's not the idea that she's this Mary Sue. To me, it was even worse than that. We're watching a series of movies where earning something has been very much part of the entire process. It's all about process. You have to study. Just because you're strong with the Force doesn't mean you're suddenly omnipotent. When you're strong with the Force, you have to study harder than ever to achieve your goals. And I hear people going, oh, well, Rey is strong with the Force, so she can just fly the Millennium Falcon. Fly the Millennium Falcon with more precision and better than we've seen it flown in any previous Star Wars movie. None of that makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. And it's a disservice to the character when we don't have great writing. And I think that is problematic. And that's what I think is most important when it comes to writing characters. But I think you're absolutely right. And I think Dana Scully was a very well-written female character. She was not written as a man at all. And I think that was really fantastic. And that's the way great characters are written. Their gender can be used as a strength, not as a weakness. And Dana Scully's character proves that for the most part, and how it was written. Or how she was written. So, yes, I think that kind of thing is important. Let's see what anybody else has to say. Because people are talking. People are talking. Willow Yang says, I guess there won't be any Siamese cats in the live action Lady and the Tramp. Personally, I'd rather see Gilbert and Tallulah in the roles. You know what? I still love the Siamese cats in Lady and the Tramp. Lady and the Tramp is one of my favorite, as I said, favorite Disney animated films. I think it's adorable. I've loved it since I was a kid. Look, there might not be any Siamese cats, or maybe there will be, and they'll do the woke version. Maybe not. I guess the yellow peril of the Siamese cats in the original is going to be scrubbed away. I don't know. I love that song. But is it politically incorrect to sing the Siamese cat song? You know, we are Siamese, if you please. I guess we can't say that. If you don't, please. I mean, it seems strange to me, but I understand. I guess that's the world we live in. By the way, Siamese cats, untrustworthy. But Willow, Gilbert, and Tallulah would be happy to star in the live-action version of Lady and the Tramp if they do a sequel. But I warn you, their manager drives a hard bargain. They need many perks, and they don't work very long hours. So they are problematic, the two of them. But yes, I did like that trailer, and I did love how it ended with the plate of spaghetti scene, because what a great scene. For us hopeless romantics, you got to love Lady and the Tramp, right? Stubble McShave says, I didn't like the storing of prisoners in carbonite in the Mandalorian trailer. In Empire, it was an improvised solution that wasn't certain to work. Yes, but this takes place after Empire, about 10 years. Maybe Boba Fett's use of freezing him in carbonite was something that was later adopted by bounty hunters. Especially, we're talking the Mandalorian. It was Boba Fett's idea, I guess. So it makes sense if that's how they're going to ship people. Once, it was a good idea that caught on. That's the way I look at it. Tiberius Monk says, is there a Disney property that was forgotten or was disappointing you would like to see brought back on Disney Plus? Keep up the great work, Robert. Yes. As everyone knows, I dearly love Island at the Top of the World, a Disney movie that starred, of all people, David Hartman. I would love to see an Island at the Top of the World series because, first of all, coolest dirigible in any movie ever. And second of all, it's just badass. I love those kinds of adventure stories. I know it's a throwback, but I have to tell you, putting on 20,000 Leagues that Ted Van Dyne sent me, putting on that Blu-ray, I love 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And what's so great about it is the period nature of the film means it doesn't feel like it's aged at all because it takes place, in the 1800s. And seeing Kirk Douglas and Peter Lorre and, of course, the great James Mason as Captain Nemo, I'd love to see more of that. So yeah, Island at the Top of the World. I don't even think people remember Island at the Top of the World, but I do. And I would certainly like to see more of that if it's possible. Island at the Top of the World is great. Or maybe it's not great, but I remembered I liked it. Jason Manweiler wrote me a letter. Jason Manweiler's, Rob, I need help, my brother. I'm at a loss for words. What is going on with Spider-Man is pissing me off beyond belief. As you know, I DM'd you yesterday to clarify my letter from Robservations 202. So the members of the Post-Geek Singularity have the same clarity as you. I live on the East Coast in Central Florida. When I wrote that initial letter, the information about what Disney wanted in regards to a stake in the other properties was not made known to me. As I told you, I agreed with your position yesterday, but that being said, I read the Hollywood Reporter article you tweeted, and this article has made me even more furious than I was in my letter in Robservations 202. The article does not change my position I gave in my letter. If anything, it gives me more ground to stand on. This is absolutely ridiculous. Sony is grabbing their balls, thinking they're the big man on campus, when in reality, they tie their shoes with Velcro. It's clear to me that Tom Rothman is a professional idiot and has not a damn clue what he's doing. You need Kevin Feige, Sony. Yeah, you won an Oscar for an animated movie. Good job. Guess what? Disney or Pixar does that on a yearly basis almost. As I said in my letter, I love Into the Spider-Verse, but Venom was a goddamn fluke. This situation shows me that Rothman is the kid in the group project who doesn't do anything but wants the A for the assignment. Marvel Studios did all the work, as I said in my letter. Because of Feige, Marvel Studios, and Holland that the current success of Spider-Man is where it is. I do not understand why Sony would turn down a 70-30 split in their favor. If it involved other Spider-Man character films, so be it. You do the deal because you both benefit. It's clear to me that Sony is biting their nose to spite their face. Rob, I'm losing my sanity over this. I want to send you other letters, but I can't let this go. Help me out, brother. I also responded to your DM. Have a good weekend, everyone. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Jason Manweiler. Jason, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. You have to tell yourself that. Look, I understand. I feel your pain. And the thing is this. Sony, which is, of course, a Japanese company, publicly held, they do a lot of business worldwide. They own Spider-Man. They own the rights to Spider-Man, lock, stock, and barrel to do movies. They own the movie rights, and they hold all the cards. Rothman wasn't even there. He was at Fox when Sony acquired Spider-Man. But yeah, Rothman fancies himself Cecil B. DeMille. He thinks he's David O. Selznick. He is not. He is a studio executive that probably has a great Ivy League education in business. But having seen some of his creative dealings in the early aughts, at least from afar, as a documentarian, I was not impressed. And I think that, look, Kevin Feige came up working on all of the movies Tom Rothman's studio, Fox, was producing at the time. So I am sure Tom Rothman grits his teeth every time he hears Kevin Feige's name and looks at the $1 billion each one of those movies averages out at. So I think there's a little bit of ego involved. I absolutely do, because it's Hollywood and there always is. But the situation is what it is. And Sony cannot, nor would any company, give up a controlling interest or any interest in their most valuable asset. They just can't. They can't do that. That's not how business works. I do agree that they had a great deal that benefited everyone. But financially, when movies are making $1 billion, Disney, from a business standpoint, also has to be able to justify to their shareholders, hey, this movie also made $1 billion. What's our slice of the cheddar over here? Well, it's 5% of the worldwide gross. I mean, that's not horrific, but if Spider-Man is making $1 billion over there down yonder in Culver City at Sony, and the Burbank offices of Disney are sitting there going, well, yeah, we did put Spider-Man in 3 of our movies that we paid 100% of the money for, although we have to keep 100% of the money, and maybe we deserve a little bit more cheddar. I think a 30-70% split is probably a good split, especially if Disney is going to finance 30% of the budgets of the movies. I think that's okay, but we'll see. I hope it works out. I just feel bad for Tom Holland. I mean, the poor guy, he's only got an option for one more Spider-Man movie. I mean, if he's in an MCU movie instead, can he not? Where is he? They've actually put a human being between a rock and a hard place here. I mean, Tom Holland has worked with a team. He has been Spider-Man with a certain team 5 movies. Suddenly he has all of that taken away, and his fate is being put into the hands of people that are untried as far as producing Spider-Man movies that he's involved with. So I feel bad for him. I would believe they will come up with a deal, because eventually it's best for everybody. It's like what Kirk said in Star Trek 4. It's better for you. It's better for us. It's better for them. To the whales, about the whales, about the station, for George and Gracie. But anyway, I think that you're absolutely right about that. And I hope they work it out. I think they will work it out, because ultimately, well, then again, egos have always gotten in the way in Hollywood. More than any other place in my life, I've seen egos ruin more things in the film business than anywhere else. So that hope springs eternal, and I would hope that they've stepped in it. There's a huge hornet's nest there, and it'll be really interesting to see where it all winds up. This next letter comes to us from the UK and our old friend Koba. Koba is here. Koba, straight out of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Greetings, Rob. I have been loving the talks about Superman lately. Today, I wanted to ask you a simple question. Does Superman kill Zod in Superman 2? Ever since Man of Steel came out, there's been a big issue on whether or not Superman should kill. My stance has always been only when it's justified, and I consider what he did in Man of Steel is justified. He was not only saving that one family, but also the whole world from Zod. Yeah, Zod and his Kryptonian buddies were an extinction-level event. I mean, those two world engines between the two of them would have destroyed all life on Earth. But compare that to what happens in Superman 2. Superman lures the three criminals to the Fortress of Solitude and sets up an elaborate plan to remove their powers, which he succeeds in doing. He'd won. Zod was human and ready to face a trial for his crimes, so why the hell did Superman murder him? Like, seriously, Rob, that was cold-blooded murder. But did he? Did Superman murder anybody in Superman 2? I mean, didn't they just slide down into the bowels of the Fortress of Solitude? I never, maybe I have to go watch the movie again because I grew up with it, but I haven't seen it since I saw the Donner cut at the Directors Guild of America with Richard Donner in attendance. That's some name dropping for you. But I don't remember. I mean, now that I think about it, I mean, I have to go back. I know people keep saying, well, he killed Zod in Superman 2. Did he, though? I don't know if he did. Do we see him murder the three outlaws from Krypton who descended to Earth to confront the Man of Steel in a cosmic battle for world supremacy? I don't know. I don't know if he did. I don't know if I buy it. But I do agree with you. Killing Zod in Man of Steel was absolutely necessary. Stubble McShave is here. Stubble McShave wrote a letter again. I love Stubble's letters. Hi, Rob. Don't worry. I won't mention the Wheel of Time in this letter. Damn, I just did. I'm sorry. Anyway, yesterday I was thinking about Star Wars and especially how the Force is used as a story device in the original trilogy. I also thought about one thing concerning that in The Phantom Menace. For you and potentially others to understand this fully, I first wanted to talk a little bit about hard and soft magic and how they're used in storytelling. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't I already read this letter? I think I did. I think I did read this letter. Maybe not. You know what? I'm going to read it anyway. If I read this letter before, so what, Stubble? I'm going to continue to read this letter because it's pertinent to the task and the topic at hand. Hard and soft magic. For you and potentially others to fully understand what I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk about hard and soft magic as used in storytelling. To illustrate this, I want you to imagine two iconic characters that Ian McKellen played on the big screen. They are, of course, Gandalf in Lord of the Rings and Magneto in the earlier X-Men movies. I will refer to Magneto's powers as magic for this segment, even if some people don't think that powers of comic book characters are magic. As most superheroes or supervillains, Magneto have hard magic. That doesn't mean that he uses his power in a hard way or that the characters with soft magic use it in a soft way. Hard magic means that it is rule-based. There are clear rules that have to be followed. Almost all superheroes have rule-based magic. For Magneto, this clear rule is he can't manipulate metals. Yes, he can. He can manipulate metals. That's all he can do. The writers of the comic book or the movie have this clear set of rules for his powers and must work in a creative way within that box. Gandalf has soft magic. That doesn't mean he's a softie or a weak character or any of that such nonsense. What it means is that we have no clear rules for what Gandalf can do with his magic. Can he throw a fireball? Maybe. We don't know. We've never seen him do it, but maybe he can. The thing with hard and soft magic from a storytelling perspective is this. Soft magic is mainly used to create a sense of wonder. Soft magic is elusive, while hard magic is concrete. There are advantages to both depending on what type of story you're trying to tell. With soft magic, you can't solve serious problems in a satisfying way. If you do, it's often seen as a deus ex machina, which means God in the machine, meaning that it came out of nowhere without any foreshadowing and it seemed implausible and ringed false to us. Before anyone jumps in their seats and screams, but what about the Balrog? I can tell you that we never really see, at least in the books, how he defeats the Balrog, and his success with that comes at a great price. The Fellowship lost its leader and was part of what broke up the Fellowship. If Gandalf had been present, I don't think it's as likely that Frodo would have left the group after Boromir attacked him. With hard magic, you're supposed to solve many problems with magic. That is more or less the central concept with superheroes. They use their powers in interesting ways to solve problems and save the day. I will give you an example to illustrate my point. I love the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve. In Act 1 and 2 of that movie, Superman's powers, or magic, are presented and established to the viewer. He can run fast, fly, is super strong, can take a lot of beating, is vulnerable to kryptonite, and he has heat vision. I can't remember if the X-ray vision is displayed in that film. Well, it is pink, but it's not really displayed. These things are established in Act 1 and 2 in the movie and are what you should do for a hard magic system. But the one thing that most people have a problem with is something that isn't established, that does seem to have come out of the blue, and that is his ability to reverse the turning of the earth and make time itself go backwards. This is an ability that isn't established and isn't part of the rules that we have learned that he can do, and therefore it didn't feel satisfactory to us. Okay, since you're going to change gears, I want to stop and just point something out that has irked me to no end. I don't believe that Superman spun the world back on its axis and made the world go back in time. Spinning around the world as fast as he did was a visual representation of Superman himself traveling through time. He didn't spin the world backwards. What he did was he went back in time, and that's how the movie chose to show him going back in time. It was a visual metaphor. I thought it was cool. It was him breaking the time barrier or whatever, and he went back in time. It was just a cool visual. He did not spin the world back in time and turn time backwards. He himself time traveled. That's the way I always saw it. That's the way I saw it when I was 11 years old, when I first saw the movie at the John Dance Theater. And I've always gone that way. And it's only recently when people started saying, but he spun the world back around and that wasn't part of his powers. But I still agree with you. It's never established that Superman can fly fast enough and go back in time. Like, wouldn't he need a cosmic treadmill for that or something? But I'll go with it because I believed it. I believed a man could fly, and I could believe he transcended the time barrier. Stubble goes on. Now on to Star Wars and the Force. I will limit this to the original trilogy because I thought that I should mention some aspects of it from a perspective that you may not have considered earlier. Star Wars has a mix of hard and soft magic, and I would claim that in the original trilogy, it was about 2/3 soft and 1/3 hard magic. This changed a little bit for the prequels, which I will mention later. In the first Star Wars movie from 1977, there wasn't much of the Force, actually. The first 2 times we see the Force being used are when Obi-Wan uses it to get past the stormtroopers, and when Vader uses it to choke the Imperial officer at a conference table. Those scenes serve the following purposes. In Obi-Wan's case, it serves the purpose of seeing the Force in action for the first time. Previously, we had only been told by Obi-Wan about how it's this powerful force that binds the galaxy together and so on. That scene's only purpose was to see that there was some substance to all the mysterious things he'd said about the Force, and although it solved the problem of getting past the guards, its main purpose was just to present an application to the viewer and the legitimacy to Obi-Wan's claims. For the Vader scene, it was just as much about establishing a ruthless character as it was about showing what the Force can do. The Force choke, however, was the first time we got to see a form of telekinetic use of the Force. There are 5 more times in the movie where the Force is used, other than in the fighting where we actually never see any Force powers displayed. 3 of them are when Vader and Obi-Wan senses things, of which the first is the destruction of Alderaan, and the 2 are when they sense each other's presence. The remaining times the Force is used is when Luke is training with the remote, as well as the actions taken in the end when he turns off his computer and uses the Force for the killing shot. The first of these 2, the training with the remote, have absolutely nothing to do with his fighting skill from a storytelling perspective. The main reason for the whole scene is to establish that he learns to trust the Force to guide his actions. This is the setup for the killing shot that destroys the Death Star in the end. The remote scene is when we got some foreshadowing and set up some rules for the end. Without this scene, the killing shot at the end wouldn't have felt earned. It wouldn't have felt satisfying. It would have felt like a deus ex machina. I would argue that it's one of the most important scenes for that movie. It's not Due. Did I say Due? It's Deus. Let me correct myself. Due. It's not a fucking number. It's Deus ex machina, people. Deus ex machina. It's one of the great. Get it right. I was getting it wrong. Due. Sometimes I'm an idiot. I don't know what I was looking at. It's Deus. I even understood it. As I'm saying it, I'm like, what am I saying? Deus ex machina. Say it with me now one more time. It's Deus, not Due. It's not even French. I would argue that it's one of the most important scenes for the movie. Concerning the blocking of laser shots in the remote scene, we never actually had another shot blocked by a lightsaber until Return of the Jedi. I will be more brief for the other movies. In The Empire Strikes Back, Vader's use of the Force to strangle and kill several of his officers was all about establishing character. In this film, he's much more ruthless than in the previous one. For comparison, in A New Hope, Vader isn't as feared by his officer as he is in Empire. In the first movie, some of the officers talk back to him in the beginning. If someone that did that in Empire, he would be dead pretty soon thereafter. Well, Vader clearly got a promotion between New Hope and Empire. He survived, everyone else died. So in Empire, we get to see more telekinesis being used and establish that there's some things as Force. One time that some people had a problem with something coming out of the blue and not feeling earned is in the end when Leia hears the call for help. To me, it still works, but that may be an after construction by me with the line from Yoda, "There is another." For the first-time viewer who doesn't have this information, the fact that Leia hears Luke's call for help may feel a bit like, say it with me, a Deus ex machina. I won't go into Return of the Jedi much beyond saying that this is the first time we see anyone block blaster shots with their lightsaber. No, sir. Well, I guess with their lightsaber, but remember in Empire, I think if you can block bolts with your hand, you should certainly be able to block them with a lightsaber. The Force lightning used by the Emperor served two purposes. The first was to torture and possibly kill Luke. The other was to hint that there were many things we didn't know about the Force and that the Emperor is super powerful. I will just mention one thing about the Force and the Phantom Menace, and this has to do with hard and soft magic. As I mentioned earlier, in the original trilogy, the Force is 2 parts soft magic and 1 part hard magic. This gives it a mysterious feel. It gives it a sense of wonder and that everything is possible while at the same time have some established rules. In The Phantom Menace, they made a few things wrong in the storytelling, and one of them was the shoehorning in of a virgin birth. The other was the midi-chlorians. In establishing the midi-chlorians, Lucas pushed the balance of hard and soft magic toward the hard part. It became more concrete, and with that, some of the mysterious nature went away. Now, I don't mind that if it's done for the right reason, but he didn't use the fact that he had established the midi-chlorians in any meaningful way. It served no real purpose in the story. It just made the Force less wondrous. That was my take on the Force and its place in hard and soft magic scales. I hope you found it interesting. Thanks, Stubble. P.S. Since I don't consider the postscriptum to really be part of the letter, I can get away with just mentioning that you guys should check out the YouTube video that I posted on the Robservations Facebook page. The video is posted under my real name, which is Tomas Bergstrom. It is a video on the mythology and backstory of the Wheel of Time series. It's basically spoiler-free. The voice of the narration is a bit stiff, but if you watch it through to the end and don't feel any excitement for the TV series, you're dead inside, in my opinion. Well, Stubble, you know what? I have to say, first of all, interesting article, a letter about hard and soft magic. I dug it. But more, your love of the Wheel of Time is very endearing. And for your sake, I hope the show kicks ass, and I think I hope it's great. I really, really hope it's great for your sake. Yeah, these are pretty good letters. There's all different kinds of letters. That hard and soft magic, I like that idea. Here's another letter from Mr. Jeffrey Mao. I swear to God, Jeffrey, I hope I haven't interfered with your life because you're writing me great letters almost every day now. But this is a funny letter. This one comes from Jeffrey Mao, who is now a very prolific letter writer here at the Post-Geek Singularity. And it's another Star Wars letter. It's funny. You know, you decide to talk about Star Wars and you get a lot of Star Wars letters. It's kind of like what Laurie Walters' character in Repo Man talks about with you find one in every ka when you talk about shrimp or plate of shrimp. When you suddenly just think about those things, suddenly you hear about plates of shrimp everywhere. Once it's in your mind, suddenly you see these patterns and you'll just hear about a plate of shrimp no matter what. I mean, if you haven't seen Repo Man, I've probably lost you, but it's kind of like that. I want to talk about Star Wars and The Mandalorian. I get Star Wars and The Mandalorian letters. Amazing. But this one comes from Jeffrey Mao. Greetings, O notoriously sanctimonious one. Hi, King Robert of the House Burnett. I bring thee glad tidings that the weekend is upon us. No weekend for me. I'm here working my ass off for you. I thought I'd do a quick tidbit type letter today as opposed to one long topic, although my last point might get long. I will break it into subjects. The first is funny stuff my son asks me during dinner. Victor, Dad, why does the Death Star have garbage? Me, I don't know. It seems kind of weird that the Death Star would have that much garbage. Victor, where did that creature, the Dianoga, come from? Me, I don't know. Where would all that water come from also? Victor, water? People in Star Wars don't drink water. He does have me there. Other than Finn and Rey, you never see people drinking water in Star Wars. Victor, why don't people float away on the Death Star? Me, they can make gravity now. Victor, oh, like Darth Vader can make gravity. He lifts people up. He does have a point there. Signs that I'm getting old. With all of this Apocalypse Now talk, I went to go looking at my disc collection to see if I'd bought Apocalypse Now on Blu-ray, as I thought I did. I found out I did have the theatrical cut on DVD and Redux on DVD. Redux came out all the way in 2001. Hard to believe it's been that long. Guess I'll be buying the final cut package, and it better be the last one I buy of Apocalypse Now. For those of you keeping score or who are collecting home entertainment, the 6-disc 4K version of Apocalypse Now that has the theatrical version, the final cut, and Apocalypse Now Redux, in addition to Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's Apocalypse, comes out, say it with me now, Tuesday. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, one of the great home video releases of the year, and it's like $25 or something. It's like when Tucker, A Man in His Dream, came out, like $10 on Blu-ray. I'm like, oh my God, thank God for American Zoetrope. One of the best releases of the year with the most value. If you have a 4K set and you have a 4K player and you're a physical media hound, you owe it to yourself to get one of the great physical media releases of the year, and that is Apocalypse Now on 4K. I have a suspicion I'm still going to feel that the theatrical cut is the best cut of the movie. Certainly better than Apocalypse Now Redux, but I'm interested to see final cut. But I still think I'm going to think the theatrical version is the best. But either way, it will be out Tuesday. So pick it up. I'll be buying the final cut package, and it better be the last one I buy of Apocalypse Now. I think I can assure you, Jeffrey, that it probably will be. Spider-Man. Mr. H reports, or Mr. H Reviews reports, that the whole Spider-Man debacle may be a publicity stunt, as the timing of all this is interesting given the upcoming D23 event and also the re-release of Far From Home. Reports are that they are back at the table and that there may be a new deal, given some of the interesting posts from Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland hinting at something in the works. I think there's fire with this smoke. Keep your eyes and ears out for D23 news. Exactly how much smoke and how much fire remains to be seen until we hear something official. The Marvel announcements at D23 are completed, and there was no mention of the Spider-Man deal. That doesn't mean that we won't hear about it, but it hasn't happened yet. Alan Horn was apparently leading the Sony negotiations, and Kevin Feige had no involvement. Alan Horn would be, well, I guess they would be Sony negotiations. Horn was also the guy who fired James Gunn, and Feige had no hand in any of that. So Gunn was recently hired back. More of a sign of things to come? Annoying trends on social media. With the recent Amazon rainforest fires, there has been the usual postings of people outraged that no one is talking about this, and also someone asking why billionaires donated money to rebuild Notre Dame Cathedral and not for the forest fires. First of all, when one building burns down, it's easier to rebuild. Second, how do you know they haven't been donating? Third, it's not so easy to do something about it. Do you know how to fight forest fires? Are you willing to move down to the Amazon and tell the people down there not to cut down the trees, not to use the land for farming and all that? Probably not. Fourth, you can't do anything unless the Brazilian government either asks for help or allows it. So instead of being outraged, do your research, find charities and organizations that are doing something about it and donate to them or work with them. Or if you don't want to do any of that, then at the very least, help by not contributing to climate change. And like RMB says, don't leave your kitchen 10% dirty. Thanks, and have a great weekend in the Post-Geek Singularity. Jeff. Well, Jeffrey Mao, thank you for that letter. You know, it's funny. I was reading an article about the Amazon rainforest, and they were talking about the fact that in this article, the Amazon rainforest, it's not like in America where a forest burns down and they put the fire out and eventually a forest will grow back. The Amazon's ecosystem is so diverse and so lush that it'll never grow back. It would take 10 million years to put the Amazon rainforest back to where it is now. And, again, I never thought, I thought we went through the whole clear cutting the Amazon rainforest back 30 years ago. I thought it was a settled deal, but apparently it isn't. And there's the insinuation that a lot of these fires were man-made, that were set by the new government of Brazil. We, of course, are so stupid and short-sighted that we don't even realize when we are participating in our own doom and gloom. But here's the thing. Here's the best part. This is how I feel about global warming, and I feel about the Amazon rainforest. It really doesn't matter what we do to the planet, because we cannot destroy the earth. We can ruin the earth in regards to ourselves, but the earth will spin on for a very long time, with us or without us. So what we need to start doing is realizing that our entire ecosystem, our entire biosphere, from the submicroscopic level to where we are at the top of the food chain, has been honed by evolution over hundreds of millions of years. Whether you believe in evolution or not, I get news for you. The Earth is more than 6,000 years old. So are human beings. And our livelihood, our everything about humanity is reliant upon the biosphere that we inhabit, along with a lot of other creatures. And all of these creatures make up the lattice work, all of the life on this planet, whether it's plant life, whether it's microbiological life, whether it's life in the sea, whatever it is, it all works in tandem. If you get rid of one species, there's no telling how that affects the greater good of the planet. This weird idea that was set forth in scripture that we somehow have dominion over the animals, they were lying to you back in the day when they said this. We do not have dominion over the animals. The reason the animals are here is because they're as much a part of this biosphere as we are. We are behaving and acting under the false assumption that if we get rid of a species, it doesn't really matter. The fact is, we don't know how it matters. We don't know. And the fact that we are so careless with our own environment, it's what humans do. I get it. But eventually the chickens are going to come home to roost, y'all. And I think, whether it's a great pandemic that gets unleashed, who knows? And half the human race gets Thanos'd by our own planet. I'll miss a few people, assuming I'm still around. But at the end of the day, if half of humanity was decimated through whether it's climate change or whether it's some virus that was unleashed because of fires in the Amazon, whose cure was burned up because there's so many probably medicines and things that could benefit us. Fountain of youth, you never know what you're going to find. But if it burns up, we're never going to find it. And it's very short-sighted and very frustrating. And I don't understand. I don't get it. Once again, if anybody wants to discuss or understand climate change, here's how you do it. This is how you do it. If you have a fireplace, it's very simple. This is how you understand how pollution works. Just go close the vent in your fireplace. Close it so smoke can't be released. I know it's the middle of summer, but as an experiment, just close the hearth, whatever it's called. The thing that opens up your chimney. Just close it and then light a fire in your fireplace. You will get a graphic representation of what is happening to our planet every single day. It's a bigger area than your living room is. But the principle is the same. Now you ask yourself, and try it. If you've never done it before, it's very illuminating. But ask yourself, once you've tried this great experiment that I'm telling you, you'll believe in climate change, you'll believe in pollution, you'll believe in all of those things. And Yeah, I think it's pretty definitive. It's an easy experiment to do. I encourage everyone to do it. So, yeah, the Amazon is burning. I would think the nations of the world would step in. I heard on Bill Maher's show that like Jeff Bezos and Amazon should literally just buy the Amazon basin, go down to Brazil and go, hey, here's $100 billion. We're going to buy the Amazon. I've always said that they should do that with Africa. They should turn Africa into one big game preserve and allow the people of Africa, if they want to live there in harmony with nature, they should. That'll never happen. But yeah, all these emergent economies, everybody wants to have Nikes. Everybody wants to have iPhones. I mean, if you have emergent economies in what were once third world nations, they got to make the money. They want to live in luxury. It's not like they don't have the luxury of not polluting for a while. That's what happens, but very frustrating. Got a letter from Paul in Long Beach, our famous friend Paul in Long Beach. Well, he's famous to us, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity. We'll see what Paul has to say. He's very funny. Morning, Rob. That was quite the 200th episode, my friend. Congratulations, and here's to 200 more. I'm becoming more and more convinced that the talking points delivered by a few letters recently are disingenuous horse droppings. Let me make this as clear as possible. I truly have no idea what social justice warrior really means. If it has a definition that states my happily married lipstick lesbian neighbors have entertainment to consume, well, count me in. Do I get a membership card? If it means they might beat me into submission, hang me upside down by my testes, and force me to watch Batwoman, then I'll think twice about joining their club. What do I find ironic, though, or what I do find ironic, though, to paraphrase a letter writer, don't call me a racist, you social justice warrior, as if they aren't attempting to utilize the terminology, whatever the hell it means, in a pejorative manner themselves. It's lazy thinking, and personally, I've never felt particularly threatened by Rosie O'Donnell. Nor do I think some of them actually believe in the free market, much less the free market of ideas. My example isn't going to be a hyperbole-filled fantastical scenario. No, just a couple of sentences. I don't particularly care for Coca-Cola. Therefore, I don't spend my money on Coca-Cola. After I'm finished writing the sentence, I will have spent approximately 30 seconds of 2019 complaining about Coca-Cola. Although I would like them to bring back the old recipe and have some Coke with a real smile. I know what you mean. It's mind-boggling to me that, as you've repeatedly pointed out, people with no experience want to tell private corporations how to do their jobs. This small, loud contingent has complained about marketing, characters, toys, etc. In some cases, as we pointed out previously, their arguments are based on ignorance of a basic subject, yet they have consistently doubled down, always finding a new excuse to justify some conspiracy theory on how Hollywood is attempting to turn their child into RuPaul. This isn't a new phenomenon, though. In fact, it's been the ultimate straw man argument since that sign read Hollywood Land. In order to make this point, I'm not reading any Hollywood history. I'm going to utilize the history of Robservations. We've had conversations on the politics of D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, Charlie Chaplin and the prescience of both modern times and especially the Great Dictator, the politics of John Wayne. If you've never seen the Green Berets, it's basically a 2-hour propaganda piece supporting the war in Vietnam. The House Un-American Activities Commission, the Hays Code, Roddenberry and Star Trek, including television's first interracial kiss, the politics of George Lucas and THX 1138, the politics of George Lucas and Star Wars, the politics of George Lucas and the prequels, the politics of Willow Yang sitting at a lunch table with a group of international female scientists discussing Star Wars, the best Star Wars story ever, comic book guy, the politics of a recent film named Brian Banks and how this young man deserves a little social justice. In conclusion, if you're going to label yourself as a toxic fan, don't be surprised when you're lumped in with some of the seedier members of that community. Are the products being created perfect? No. As far as I'm concerned, Disco Star Wars is a herpy on the upper lip of John Williams' original score. Does the fact that it exists, or even worse, the fact that Rob is going to defend it in a few minutes, diminish my anticipation for the Rise of Skywalker? I'll be there day one. Fingers crossed, like Rob, that they finally give R2-D2 the respect he deserves. Paul. Yes, Paul, you're correct. I'm going to defend Mego Star Wars. Look, I'll tell you why I'm going to defend Mego Star Wars, because at the time, it was a celebration of all things Star Wars. Star Wars came out of the gate. It stunned the world. It permeated all of pop culture. So why shouldn't Miko do a disco Star Wars album? But for the most part, I think, Paul, you're correct. I love your letters. Very funny. Very, very funny stuff. So I thank you for that. And, you know, I think you're right. Ultimately, the example of let's just not buy it. But I don't think we can do that. Like, I honestly don't think that people that love Star Wars, or in my case, Star Trek, I can't not watch Star Trek. I can't. Like, I have to. I have to watch it. It's not just to talk about it, for my own edification. I mean, I've been consuming Star Wars literally my whole life. And so, I mean, Star Trek. So if some new Star Trek comes out, I have to consume it. I don't have a choice. And I think all of us, you know, like you said, it becomes, we take everything personally, and we do feel ownership over it. Like, we all have a personal stake in Star Wars. I think all of us imagination connoisseurs, we all want it to be good. I mean, I feel a lot more excitement for The Mandalorian than I do for The Rise of Skywalker, and I feel bad that I feel that way. I want to be excited about Rise of Skywalker. I really do. The trailer, though, that I felt that we were given showed me nothing. There was nothing intellectual in that trailer for me to grab onto and go, oh, I have to see that. There was nothing from a story perspective. It was just, to me, more of the same. There was nothing new or interesting, especially as far as I felt like I was watching a Star Wars sort of you're waiting. If Casey Kasem was doing the countdown, I felt like the Rise of Skywalker teaser was songs 20 through 11. We weren't even in the top 10 yet. And that teaser was like, okay, I mean, half that teaser is you're waiting for Rey to pull one gag to jump over a TIE fighter. And I understand that's an arresting image, but there's no story being told there. They spent half of that teaser setting up one gag that ultimately is meaningless. You're just supposed to go, oh, cool. I mean, it was just a visual we'd never seen before. Like, oh, I've never seen someone jump over a TIE fighter. But I'm sure Steve-O did that once over a car. You know, it was a cool visual, but they played it out like I'm supposed to look at this one. All it was a trick. It was a parkour video that somebody makes on YouTube. You watch it and you forget about it. Like, it's a cool visual, no doubt. And once again, we see a spaceship, a TIE fighter, which probably, I don't know why J.J. Abrams keeps putting space-going vessels on planetary surfaces or skimming above planetary surfaces. I mean, what does he have against having space battles in space? I don't know. But that didn't excite me. There was nothing in that. I'm like, okay, but what's the story? And they might have shown clips at D23, and I'm sure they didn't give us a trailer because they didn't want it to overshadow The Mandalorian. Or in the case of The Mandalorian, they didn't want The Mandalorian to overshadow The Rise of Skywalker, because I bet The Mandalorian cost a lot less than The Rise of Skywalker did. Certainly the salaries were less. Ian Samuels has another letter, another prolific letter. This one's about Star Trek. I have previously presented interesting facts about Star Wars, so I decided this time we should try Star Trek. When it came to making a second Star Trek movie, many ideas were considered. When they made their decision, then it came to choosing a title. Based on the storyline of the Genesis device and the ability to create new worlds, the title The Undiscovered Country was considered. Obviously, this was not used, but later resurrected for Star Trek VI, being a new time where for the first time there would be peace between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. In Deep Space Nine, we learn more about the Bajoran people, including their religion. The full religious symbol used by the Bajorans, which has their symbol in the center surrounded by a ring of images, those images are in fact the image of a ship repeated over and over again. The interesting thing is the ship used. It is in fact an image of the SS Botany Bay, Khan's ship. Is it? I haven't heard that. I don't know if that's true. The two USS Farragut's have played important parts in Star Trek. The Constitution-class Farragut was the ship Kirk served on before gaining command of the Enterprise. The Nebula-class Farragut was amongst the ships at Veridian 3, rescuing the crew of the crashed Enterprise D. When James Kirk took command of the Enterprise in the original canon, his father was still alive to proudly see his son take his first command. When J. Michael Straczynski was trying to launch Babylon 5, he took written up details of the station, the characters, and some of the outlines of episode storylines. One of the places he took them was Paramount. As the studio that made Star Trek, it made sense to him that would be the perfect place for a sci-fi, but they turned him down. Soon after, they launched Deep Space Nine, a Star Trek series about a space station. Many of the plot lines and characters were very similar to Straczynski's ideas for Babylon 5. Straczynski eventually got Babylon 5 made with Warner Brothers. He considered. Warner Brothers executives tried to convince Straczynski to sue the makers of Deep Space Nine. He insisted it wasn't worth the trouble for either company. More to come soon. Ian. Well, Ian, interesting. A lot of people talk about that, but I think that once you've done two space-based or starship-based shows, I think the next idea, especially if you go back to the whole idea of Star Trek being a wagon train to the stars, is how Roddenberry originally pitched the show, a Western in space. The idea is, well, what's next? Bonanza, the Ponderosa. I mean, that's what Deep Space Nine is. It's a fort. It could be the Alamo, even though they refer to that in the show. So I don't think it was a stretch to say that they had considered doing a station-based show even before Straczynski showed up. It's kind of natural. Space stations are a staple in science fiction, and the idea that in Star Trek you have people that are literally out there on the final frontier on their ranch or at their fort, that's what Deep Space Nine was. And they sort of went from there. So I've never believed that Deep Space Nine was ripped off from Straczynski. I don't buy that. But I want to thank you for writing the letter, Ian. I look forward to more from you. I very much appreciate the letters. This one's short, and it's another one from Ian. Rob Meister General, it has been announced that Jared Leto's Joker will be R-rated. It has also been announced that a sequel is in the works. Does the R rating increase your anticipation for the movie? Does the announcement of the sequel increase your anticipation? Do either announcement give you concerns? No. The simple fact is no. Ratings have never made... The only thing that ratings tell you is that you're going to get more adult content. It means you can say the word fuck. You can only use the word fuck in a PG movie once, and if it's in a non-sexual connotation. So if something goes wrong for you, and you say, like, you lose your job, you can say fuck in a PG-13 movie once. But if you say fuck you, then you get an R rating. So I know that the Joker movie is obviously adult content. It's an adult content film. It is. There's no way around that. It obviously is going to be adult content. It excites me that we're going to get a Joker movie that is so adult in its examination of the character and our society. I suspect it's going to be unlike any comic book movie ever seen. I hesitate to even call it a comic book movie. I think you're adapting comic book source material into a very different kind of a movie. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fanboys and fangirls that are absolutely perplexed by it, but we're not going to hear about it from the fangirls. The 98% of the fanboys that don't like the Joker movie because Batman's not in it, or Joker turns out to be Bruce Wayne's stepbrother, or whatever the hell they're doing in that movie. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I'm sure people will get angry about it because it's going to take an intelligent, mature point of view, I think, to enjoy the film for what it is. And but we're getting a lot of bitching about what the film isn't. I'm very excited for this movie. I can't wait to see it. I don't know what it has in store for me, but I really want to see the Joker. But look, as I said, the rating, I don't care what the rating is. A movie like The Dark Knight, right? In the beginning, in that beautiful sequence when they rob the bank, it really bothers me that the Joker, that Heath Ledger's Joker, is using an Uzi and gunning people down. But there are no blood squids. that as the gatekeeper of verisimilitude that I am, when I watch that and I see somebody being gunned down, I mean, if there were blood squibs, it would have gotten an R rating. I understand that I get it. They have to make a Batman movie. They can't make it R. But I'll tell you something. Watching people gunned down, I have no problem with violence in cinema. But when you're gunning people down with Uzis and there's no blood squibs, I think you're doing great disservice to even the young people in the audience. I mean, I'm not saying go full on RoboCop with the blood squibs, but it seems worse when you've got a PG movie that doesn't even show you the kind of violence that would really happen. Yeah. So here's another letter from Koba. It's a short one, but I like it. Hello again, Rob. On one of your live chats, I heard you talk about how someone being born after Jurassic Park can't enjoy a stop-motion dinosaur movie. I personally disagree with you completely. For you see, I was born after Jurassic Park. I was born December 1994, and I love old-fashioned stop-motion films. Granted, I may be an odd one out in the group, but I don't care. My all-time favorite film is the original King Kong. And one of the reasons that I love it is because it is stop motion at its best. The works of Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen intrigue me more than many CGI creations do today. I'm not saying CGI is easy. I know it's hard, and the people who work on it are very talented. But stop motion is a craft, a specialist craft at that. In a modern blockbuster, how many people are working on the visual effects? Loads of people. Take the most recent version of Kong on Skull Island. How many people did it take to bring him to life on the big screen? A great team of talented people. But in the early 1930s, the only person who brought Kong to life on the big screen was Willis O'Brien. In Jason and the Argonauts, it is only Ray Harryhausen animating the many heads of the Hydra, and it is beautiful. Like I say, maybe I'm the odd one out in my age group, but I love stop-motion animation. Well, Koba, let me tell you, your point is well taken. And I agree. There are always outliers. I understand. And look, I grew up in a world where I liked many, many films that came out way before my time. But it was a different time as well. I mean, what I find really interesting is when I was a kid, if you're looking at almost a half century of movies that have been made after I became a movie fan. So, and certainly the amount of science fiction films and horror films has tripled, quadrupled. So there's just a lot more to watch. And so I think it's even harder. Like I always talk about my beloved Michelangelo Antonioni's Ennui trilogy, La Ventura, La Notte, and The Eclipse. Actually, it's La Notte, La Ventura, and The Eclipse. And I could not, I bet you I couldn't get anyone under 30. I mean, yeah, look, when I say this, people are going to say, I'll sit down and watch them. I defy anyone who is watching this chat who is under 30. Watch Michelangelo's Antonioni trilogy and get back to me. Here's a challenge. If you're under 30, watch La Notte, watch La Ventura, and watch The Eclipse, and watch all three of them and get back to me and tell me you got through all of them. Just as an experiment. Now, I'm not trying to this is not a criticism. It's just a fact of life. It's that when people are born into a certain era, it's really hard to go back. Even if I was born and the first movie I saw when I was 5 years old was Jurassic Park, I would expect that to be the baseline with which I must judge all dinosaur movies. Even I could not go back and watch Reptilicus. If you haven't seen Reptilicus, I believe it's Danish. And I'm not encouraging anybody to watch Reptilicus, but yes, there is a real movie called Reptilicus, and I would just go to YouTube and see if, I don't even know if it's up there, but it must be. See if there's a trailer for Reptilicus. And by the way, I liked Reptilicus when I was a kid because it would spit acid, kind of like Alien. But I had memories of it as a kid. Even I could never go back and watch Reptilicus ever again. But and if you'd grown up in a world where your first experience with dinosaur cinema was Jurassic Park, and then you had to sit down and watch Reptilicus right after. I understand. I mean, there's a reason why we're at this point in time where we get Jurassic Park. And I think it would be very hard for anybody who grew up first and foremost with Jurassic Park if they went back and tried to get something out of Valley of the Gwangi. Now, I agree with you. Stop motion animation, I grew up loving stop motion animation, but even back when ILM came up with Go Motion, when they figured out using how to put motion blur in between the frames to stop. So stop motion animation wasn't like this anymore. It was much smoother. And you got to see stop motion tauntauns at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. And you got to see the Vermithrax pejorative, one of the greatest dinosaurs ever put on the screen, in Dragon Slayer, which, by the way, not available in physical HD, but for some reason on Amazon streaming, you can find a beautiful HD version of Dragon Slayer and see an amazing example of how a dragon was portrayed expertly by ILM in the movie. I think it was 81, actually. 81 or 82? I think it was 81. Maybe it was 82. In Dragon Slayer. You know what? Now that since I'm talking live, I want to find out. I'm going to find out exactly. Was it 81 or 82? When did Dragon Slayer come out? 81. It is 81. Okay, there you go. 81. So yeah, and it was an amazing experience. So I agree with you, but you have a respect for the craft. But most casual moviegoers, as I've talked about, only 20% of movie buyers were fans of special features. 20%, that's it. That doesn't mean you're not a fan, but it's atypical. But you're right. I mean, I stand by my assertion. That if you see Jurassic Park, it's hard to go back and watch other things. Dan V900 is here. He says, the sizzle reel that came out today will be released on Monday. The trailer did nothing for me, and I celebration. The only thing I'm excited to see is how Palpatine returns, but not the story. Now, wait a minute. Are you saying that they released a sizzle reel and they released a Rise of Skywalker trailer? Because this information was still coming out when I went online. So I don't know what the deal was. Yeah, I have to tell you, I think The Mandalorian has it all over because the Rise of Skywalker, because at the end of the day, the battle that is happening between Rey and Kylo Ren, whatever that battle is, just isn't the battle of Luke and his father. You know, we don't even know what their relationship is. So who cares? There's no reason to care. They haven't instilled that in us yet. But that's really interesting. By the way, thanks for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Willow Yang says, we're having an ongoing war over Hawaiian pizza in the chat. Taking a hard stance here. I'm 100% pro pineapple on pizza. Okay, man. Look, far be it for me to get in the way of people who like pineapple on their pizza. And as I've said, you know me and my love of Hawaiian potato chips, my luau barbecue potato chips, which I love. And I think when you have pineapple and you put it together with ham and you bite into it, I can see that I've had pineapple pizza before. I don't have a particular problem with it, but I prefer. I don't like the. I've talked about this. I don't like wet. I feel like when you have a lot of pineapple on a pizza, you're putting water onto your pizza. Really, there's a lot of water in pineapple. I don't like that. I like my hot piping pizza that burns the roof of my mouth. You know, and then when that happens, if it's that piping and you bite in, the citrusy nature of the pineapple then stings the top of your just burned roof of your mouth, and that kind of sucks. But then again, I don't want to come down one way or another because you imagination connoisseurs, I refuse to discriminate. Unlike John Campia, if you want to put ketchup on your eggs, that is fine with me. If you want to have pineapple on your pizza, that is okay. But if I can give a shout out to the Pasadena Pizza Company that is on Allen Avenue, that's very close to my house, they make a wicked meat lovers pizza. Wicked. It is so good. It's one of my favorite pizzas I've ever had. You should check that out. You can look it up online. As a matter of fact, you should just flood their phone line and say, hey, Rob Burnett, just say Rob, who loves Meat Lovers Pizza, says you guys are some of the best pizza in the world. I'm sure they would love it. Go to the California or the Pasadena Pizza Company. They're on the web. Actually, don't do that. Actually, it'd be kind of funny if you did. No, but don't. I love the Pasadena Pizza Company. I love the guys who work there. It's two brothers that run the place. But I like my Meat Lovers Pizza. I don't like, peppers are good for pizza. If you're gonna have like stuff you grow in the ground, like mushrooms and olives and all that, I prefer more of the peppery forms. Yeah, that's what I like. I'm not a big olive and mushroom guy on pizza, but peppers are good. But I'm not going to jump in the fray. I do not want to come down one way or another. And it does make me sad that we're talking about all these topics and you guys are still on the pepperoni pizza topic, pineapple pizza topic, but far be it for me to stop what is going on in the chats today, because after all, it is the Post-Geek Singularity community. And if you guys want to talk about pepper or pineapple pizza, please, by all means, do so, because I do not believe in censorship. Dan V900 says, oh, it was just a sizzle reel shown today as a featurette at D23, and I was referring to the trailer that dropped at Celebration in April. Yes, Dan, I completely agree with you. I thought the trailer was really lackluster. The only things in the trailer that really excited me was, oh, wow, you get to see something that once again reminds you of the main characters of the Star Wars trilogy that you really wanted to see together, but were never together. You get to see the Death Star. Oh, wasn't it great when Han, Luke, and Leia worked together to achieve a goal? It bummed me out. Click Daily UK says, hello, this is Click Daily UK Live speaking about you at Click Daily Live now. Click Daily Live UK is speaking about me right now. Well, let's hope you are talking about pineapple pizza, Click Daily UK, because I want to know, how does the UK weigh in on pineapple pizza or pineapple on your pizza, or as I like to call it, Hawaiian pizza? And here's the funny thing, though. Can I just say something about this? If you're talking about pineapple, when you're in Hawaii, if you're in Hawaii, and I'm a haole from trying to surf the North Shore, it's terrible. But when you're in Hawaii, and I love Hawaii, and eating pineapple on your pizza when you were in Hawaii seems very natural. It seems like that's something you're supposed to be doing. It just feels a little weird when you're taken out of that nice, beautiful Polynesian setting that you try and make it work here. But then again, you never know. I don't want to get in the way of what you guys want to do. And if Willow Yang is a fan of pineapple pizza, well then I too, I guess I'll have to try it again. It'll be interesting. I mean, one day when I go to Seattle to visit my mom and my sister, I'm going to have to come up, Willow. I'll come up and meet you, and we'll go drink a beer. And I don't even know if you drink beer. Do you do that? Do PhD candidates drink? Do you drink hard liquor? I don't know. I would assume you're Canadian, so you have to drink beer. But I'll have to come up there and we'll have to have the great pizza debate. But if that's going on in the chat, well then, far be it for me to step in. I can't believe this is still a topic. But anyway, everyone, that is going to bring an end to this Robservations live chat number 205. I want to thank, first of all, everybody for being here. I want to thank my moderating staff. I hope there were moderators here. I don't really know. But the moderating staff, the great moderating staff, Greg Smith, of course, Terry from the UK, D'Artagnan back from his Grail quest. We got the Honorable Mike Bodden, Mayor of Riverdale, Iowa, and we've got Detective Jim. Detective Jim is out there, keeping the world safe. I mean, he's retired now. He's retired, Detective Jim, probably because, the world he's like Detective Somerset at the end of Seven, who just wanted to retire, and he had to deal with John Doe, this horrible case, and then you leave and you lead the quiet life. That's what I'd like to imagine. Even though Detective Jim does not look like Morgan Freeman, I'd like to believe that he is like Detective Somerset, and he retired to a nice life to moderate our lovely channel. So thanks to all the moderators, Greg, Mike, Jim, and Terry. I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel. If you like these chats, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It always helps those YouTube analytics. Please write those letters. Come to the website. The website it's burning up. The Burnettwork.net website's crazy good. I mean, everybody's interacting there. They're sending letters. All the letters you guys send me, amazing. Mike Bodden is being buried under a deluge of letters coming over the transom. Just keep burying him. It's great. I really want to know what everybody thought. What do you guys think of The Mandalorian versus The Rise of Skywalker? Forget that I'm tired of hearing people say The Last Jedi sucked. I'd much rather hear, why did you not like The Last Jedi? And don't give me the same reasons. What I'm really interested in is, what do you all think of the future of Star Wars moving forward? Now that we have the Cassian Andor series announced, now that we have Ewan McGregor confirmed coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and now that we have, of course, The Mandalorian dropping, we've got The Rise of Skywalker, we got the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, Ryan Johnson is still working on a Star Wars trilogy, apparently. We got all this stuff happening. How do you feel about the Star Wars trilogy? Not the trilogy, but the whole Star Wars franchise moving forward? What does Star Wars mean to you as you get older in your lives? Does it still mean the same thing? For those of you who have kids, what does Star Wars mean to them? Is it something you share? I want to know. And the same is true of Star Trek as well. But since I've got Star Wars on the brain now, and I'm all excited again, they sucked me back in with that Mandalorian trailer. I was already sucked back in, but anyway, what do you guys think? I want to know. I want to thank you guys for being the great group that you are. And I know that John Campy's probably still on the air, so you can jump over there and talk to him. But subscribe to the channel. Do what you can. Support the channel. I really appreciate it all. And thank you very much. I will be back tomorrow, probably at 1 o'clock again. That's kind of the time I've staked out. And hopefully I'll have even more letters to discuss. Now, the whole thing about pizza, I don't know how to weigh in on it, but somebody's got to give me some definitive answers. Like, what do you guys think? Is it your go-to pizza? I guess I have to go back and look at the live chats and see what you guys think of pineapple pizza. Anyway, thank you all for being here. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say, have a better day. Or not.